Right, that's enough of that. What I wanted to look at today was a bit of music theory. I want to dispel some myths about. I posted on Facebook about 5 days ago or so that do you feel it's important to be able to read music? So I have some really strong feelings on this, and my feelings are that basically most of my favourite musicians and favourite guitarists can't read music or have limited music reading ability. So they can't sight read, and sight reading is not how they play their pieces or learn their pieces. So sight reading is that specific skill of being able to just take a newish piece of music. Maybe you've never seen it before, maybe you have played it before, but you have the notes on the page, traditional music notation. Most of my favourite guitarists, Angus Young, Paul McCartney, countless others, you know, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, these people cannot and could not read music. Does that mean they don't know music theory? Of course. They've got to know a hell of a lot of music theory to be able to do exactly what they do or did, to be able to know what key they're in, to be able to solo over a chord sequence or a song and to write a belting solo, to be able to jam with other musicians. You have to know about music theory. But that music theory does not have to have anything to do with actually reading music. So what do you have to know? The main thing that we need to know about is keys. So I've done a lot of videos on the key of C. Level 5 of my beginner's course is pretty much exclusively about the key of C. Do you have to know tab? Someone's asking. Remember, I ask you questions live and I can respond to them. Tab isn't so much music theory because it's just notating it's just indicating which frets you're going to be using. However, the massive thing that is related to music theory that should be written in tab is timing. And rhythm is again one of those things that you absolutely should learn to be able to read. To be able to read rhythms is so important. To be able to know the proper terminology is crotchets and quavers and semiquavers and things like that, and semibreves, but what you need to be able to do is read the timing of them. So know what a one beat phrase looks like and to be able to read a bar of a strumming pattern, for example. So many people keep commenting that I'm not putting the downs and ups or the D's and U's on my strumming, on my song lessons and things like that. And the idea is, if you've covered a strumming pattern that is similar, that is at that level, you should be able to do it upon me counting it and instructing it in the video. And if you can't work out strumming patterns yet, this is a part of music theory that you need to research and be up on. Rhythm notation and understanding rhythms and being able to play them. That is 100% part of music theory. The chords that happen in the key of C are... there's a couple of ways that I want to explain this, really, because there's a really basic way, which we start off with the C chord, which we would call our hum or our bass or the key of the song or the one chord. We'll revisit that in a second. And then we have another series of chords that work from that, like a painter's palette. Like certain colours go together really well, like, you know, I don't know which colours go together really well. You know, like reds and oranges go together really well, but don't really go with some greens. Like, you know, some colours go together better than others. Chords go together better than others. And in the key of C, we would have C, primarily F and G, but also D minor and E minor, A minor, and occasionally a couple of slash chords, so like B/C, if we're being clever. But they're not essential. It's essentially, the essential ones are C, F, and G. So we have these chords that go together really well. However, there's a reason those chords go together really well, and it is born out of the major scale. The major scale is the foundation of all Western-based music, all the music that we typically listen to. Even if you're a rock guitar player and you're playing the minor pentatonic all the time, the music that we all commonly listen to is based on the major scale. So that major scale in open position in the key of C is played like that, and all the letters that are these notes are just the alphabet from C. C, D, E, F, G, and then the musical alphabet goes round in a circle from there, so it goes back to A, B, and C. So C to C, we have all the letters A to G, basically, but it's in a cycle. And then it's when we put chords to those that the first one, so C, would be major. The fourth and the fifth would also be major, the F and the G. Essentially all the others are minor, which primarily are the D minor, E minor and A minor. We do have a tricky thing with the B where it would technically be a diminished chord, but commonly that gets swapped out for a slash chord like the C/B, or even just as a G. We'll cover diminished chords in another lesson because I'm keeping this appropriate for beginners. So commonly that kind of seventh note of the scale is B, and we'll just swap that for a slash chord, the C/B. That is called diatonic chords or diatonic harmony. So diatonic just means from the tonic, and the tonic is whatever key you're in. So from C. And that is the basis of all music that we currently listen to. And it's such a massive thing because so many people, the question that you need to ask if you want to be able to solo over pieces or either jam with other musicians and things is kind of what key are we in and then what scale are we using? And this sort of answers both of those questions if you understand it. Because we have the major scale, but then every note in every chord, C, G, the A minor, the F, everything, uses notes only from that major scale, which gave us the root notes earlier. And this is a topic that we're going to be explaining a lot more in the future, but that is the crux of it. And I will explain that much better in an edited video, in a scripted video, to come in the future, and it's going to be part of a free music theory course that I will be doing, but that's really practical. So if you know how to do that, if you know the chords that are in the key of C, you can just play them one after the other in any order, and it's always going to work. It's always going to work fine. And then if you played notes over that from the major scale, that would also work. There are easier keys and there are harder keys. So the easy key, is this why we need to know caged as well? I'll be covering caged in a second, dude, so it's alright. But in short, caged is kind of a different thing. Caged is more used for note location higher up the neck rather than with keys. But good question. So the easy keys are the key of C, because there are no sharps and flats in the key of C. And the next easiest key would be G, because we only have one sharp in that major scale. Now again, sharps and flats on guitar aren't as much of a big deal for us because we don't normally come across them, because all the open chords are just G, C, A and E. There aren't any sharp and flats open chords. And, if we do come across a sharp, then it's just like another fret. So we don't sweat about sharps, but we can get, they can puzzle guitarists, definitely, sometimes. But they're not that much of a big deal to beginners because we just don't come across them. But the best way to think about sharps and flats is they naturals, as we call them, which are the normal notes of just A, B, C, D, are the white notes on a piano or keyboard. And then the black keys are the sharps and flats. So And if you were in the first sort of year of playing piano, for example, you're going to be just sticking to the white keys all the time for everything that you learn, and you only learn the black keys to be able to really find the white ones. So it's normally the same for many instruments at least, and certainly guitar and piano. We stay away from sharps and flats for quite a while, but there is one sharp in the G major scale, and it's that 7th note, and it's an F sharp. So that poses a couple of problems with that. There's also a bar chord in it of the chords in the key of G. G, A minor, B minor, always poses some problems. However, it's all right. It's an easy. You will all know plenty of songs that are in the key of G. What's the easiest way to tell what key a song is in straight away? By instantly either seeing the chords written down in the song or by playing it. There, I have 3 sort of acid tests, or 3 questions to ask. First chord, last chord, and most common. If you have a chord sequence, let's take a chord sequence G, C, and D major, and then finish it on G, for example. So here's my little song. Here's my little song. Here's my little song. It's only got 3 chords. It's a real song. I just wrote it now. Okay, that's my little song. What key is it? It's in the key of G, because I've just been talking about it. But why? First chord, last chord, most common. First chord is G. Last chord was G. And the most common is G, because it happens twice at 2 bars out of that chord sequence. The C and the D only happened once. Is that a hard and fast rule? Not a chance. But let's look at one song example at least. Stand By Me. We'd normally need a capo at the 2nd fret, but forgive me. We would go for a G chord, E minor, C, D, and back to G again. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand, sing along, by me. Oh, stand, stand by me, stand by me. First chord is G, last chord is G, most common chord is G, is the key of G. We could have a chord sequence where that is entirely not the case, and it's still in the key of G, especially from a practical point of view, from a nuts and bolts point of view. So our chord sequence could start on A minor. Thanks for all the hearts, whoever's given me all the hearts on Instagram. We could have a chord sequence that just went from A minor to G. So we wouldn't have a most common chord because it was the same amount of time on each. The last chord was G, but the first chord was A minor. So, you know, only one of those 3 things is correct. But there is a sort of, without going into the maths of it, there is a final way to always as well, check. Even if you're really at the highest level of music theory and you've got a lot of chords and they're all doing weird stuff, it's sort of, you know, you're learning a Radiohead song, for example. There's still a way to always be sure of the key and to know just by listening. Just by, imagine that, to know exactly what key you're in just from listening, and then suddenly, well, hey, we're in the key of G. I know how to play a bit of lead guitar over that. What is that? It's the sound of it and listening for what we call the resolve or the finish. So if I play those 3 chords again that were in my little song, this is my little song, remember that one? We had G, we had C, and we had D. If I play those chords one more time, and I finish on the D, it sounds kind of unfinished. It sounds what we call unresolved. I like to describe it as a ball in the air. If I finished there and then just walked away, it'd be like, it would sound unfinished, like there's a ball in the air and it's just stayed there. When I come back to G, it's resolved that tension. That's why we call it the resolve. And that resolve and that fall back to what we call the 1 chord, so the first chord, the key of the song, is coming back to the G, that is called a cadence. It's called a perfect cadence, and at level 5, I believe it's lesson 4 of the free videos of my beginner's course at andyguitar.co.uk. Teaches you exactly all about that. We use it in the key of C because the key of C is easier. But yes, what I'm wanting to do from here is give you all a workbook and a series of videos that explain the key of C a little bit more from a nuts and bolts point of view, as I say, this practical music theory, the key of G, the key of D, A and E, all those open chords.